Our favorite Pixar film from our childhood that was later turned into a trilogy that followed us into adulthood is being expanded. Toy Story 4 is one of the most anticipated Pixar films in the studio's history. According to Tim Allen and Tom Hanks, it's also one of the most emotional Pixar films of all time. So emotional that you might not be able to finish it. And that's quite the statement, considering the emotional track record the studio has, with films like Inside Out, Coco, Up, and WALL-E, not to mention Toy Story 3. That incinerator scene left us all shook. But the hype has a lot of people speculating. What is Toy Story 4 going to be about? There are a lot of theories out there, and today we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the darker ones that might actually be true. Howdy partner, I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and these are 5 dark Toy Story 4 fan theories. But before we begin, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you get notifications from Star Command whenever we upload. Theory 1. Shutting down. Although very little is known about Toy Story 4's plot at the moment, considering all we've really had access to is a couple of short teaser trailers, there's one thing we know for certain: the ending is going to be incredibly emotional. Tim Allen, who voices Buzz Lightyear, said,
"The last scene of that movie was, I couldn't even get through it, and I thought there was pages after it. I read it, and I had to turn around from looking at it in a studio. I said, it was so emotional."
Additionally, Tom Hanks, who plays Woody, also made the point saying, "When I realized what they were going for, I realized, oh, this is a moment in history." What is this big emotional ending they're talking about? Pixar has never been afraid of heartbreaking writing, but it seems like they're going to take it to another level with Toy Story 4. Reddit user Corlevan has a theory. Those who have watched Toy Story movies know that the toys never reveal that they are alive to humans. Well, except for Sid, which we'll get back to in a minute.
We don't like being blown up, Sid.
This theory suggests that the film's main villain, whoever it is, intends to reveal him or herself to their owner. Woody and Buzz desperately try to convince them otherwise, knowing that it will freak them out and destroy the relationship, but the villain does it anyway. As expected, the owner freaks out and tells their parents. Eventually, the world finds out and there's chaos everywhere. Toy stores shut down and toys are kept away from kids, so it's up to Woody, Buzz, and friends to get things back to normal. They eventually determine the best course of action is to shut themselves off for good. In the last scene, they shut themselves down and revert to regular toys. Is this dark? Yeah, really dark. Is it plausible? I don't know. On one hand, we already know that toys are totally capable of revealing themselves to people, as we saw it happen to Sid in the original film.
So play nice.
So it's definitely not impossible, but as far as shutting themselves down, I guess that's up in the air considering a lot of toys don't actually have a power supply. Maybe it's something the toys are able to do still and the power supply is more metaphorical, who knows. That said, this is an incredibly dark ending possibility, but we have seen darkness in the past from Toy Story. Again, after the furnace scene, anything is possible. Theory number 2, the power of imagination.
Imagination.
So this one isn't actually dark, but it does segue into a dark one after this, so roll with me. Throughout the Toy Story trilogy, there was never a reason to question if the toys had always been alive or if there was something in the universe that brought them to life. However, one of the new characters introduced in the teaser trailers has people speculating. Forky, a character that seems to be made out of a spork, so I'm not sure why we call him Forky, was likely created by Bonnie, maybe as a preschool assignment, essentially a handmade toy that you obviously can't buy from a store. In the trailer, he comes off as nervous and quirky and says that he doesn't belong here, that he isn't a toy.
I don't belong here!
But if this is the case, how exactly did Forky come to life? The theory suggests that toys come to life if a child plays with them and pretends that they are alive. A child's imagination is the reason toys are alive. This is a pretty solid theory considering it seems like an appropriate theme to put into a family film, and we've also seen similar characters throughout the history of animation and film that have followed this sort of trope, that there's a sort of magic that comes from our imagination.
Imagination.
If you dig into this a little deeper, we start to see some evidence in the previous films. For example, Reddit user Maizen Abim points out in Toy Story 2, there's a scene in which hundreds of Buzz Lightyears are together in a store aisle. Every Buzz Lightyear is in their box and not alive. However, one Buzz Lightyear is not in the package, but in a glass display. The display isn't locked, so at some point, children could have played with Buzz while visiting the store, which brought him to life.
I have a laser, and I will use it.
The same can be said about the Barbies in the packaging versus the Barbies that have been opened and placed in the vacation display. So in Toy Story 4, if Bonnie created Forky and began playing with him, according to this theory, her imagination would bring him to life. Because he has no fictional backstory like the other toys, he's filled with anxiety and panic, leaving Woody and Buzz to help transition him into life and toyhood. Yeah, toyhood. Let's go with that word. Theory number 3, the dark side of imagination. Okay, we've broken down the sunshine and rainbows, the power of a child's imagination, and all that good stuff, but what if all that is true? If so, some very dark doors open up. If a child's imagination can create toy life out of anything they play with, there must be some moral dilemma that comes along with it. After all, Forky surely isn't the first time a child has brought a homemade toy or a non-toy to life. Are you telling me that every crummy arts and crafts project is worthy of life? What kind of existence is that? And let's not forget that Ham isn't a toy, he's just a piggy bank, so this sort of magic also works on things that aren't traditional toys. And in this day and age, in which kids just play video games for the most part, what happens when a kid plays Fortnite or a mobile game? Does the computer come to life? Does the iPhone come to life? What exactly is the limitation? What happens in the rare occasion in which a little kid plays with some random household appliance? Like, let's say, I don't know, a toaster, or a desk lamp, or a radio, or a blanket, or a vacuum. Wait a minute. Maybe that explains the brave little toaster. And let's be real, that movie was super dark. I'm pretty sure the air conditioner killed itself.
It's my function!
Don't! Wait!
And keep your tinfoil hats on for a minute because I'm not done. For that matter, what about Sid? Sid essentially had a torture chamber filled with hacked apart toys. What happens when he breaks two toys and reassembles them together? Does it create a new consciousness? It would make Sid's room a cross between Frankenstein's lab and one of the Saw sequels. Surely if one has the ability to create life, then there must be some ethical dilemmas involved, right? Or maybe we're just overthinking it. Yeah, probably that.
Genie's all better now.
Theory number 4, the carnival toys. As of right now, Toy Story 4's IMDb plot summary states, when a new toy called Forky joins Woody and the gang, a road trip alongside old and new friends reveals how big the world can be for a toy. Presumably, somewhere on this road trip, the gang finds themselves at a carnival. We see this in the teaser trailer in which two carnival stuffed animals, Ducky and Bunny, voiced by Keegan-Michael Key and Jordan Peele, deliver some banter.
Do the flying thing he does. Do it. Do it. To infinity and your mom.
Given all the detail throughout the series when it comes to humanizing toys, specifically giving toys their own purpose, meaning, and having them struggle with abandonment, it would make sense that these carnival toys have their own different emotional backstory that only carnival toys have. If you think about what carnival game toys are, and always have been, they're essentially toys that don't have much value to children. They're usually made poorly and are forgotten about rather quickly. They're never comparable to a favorite toy like a Buzz Lightyear. Given that Toy Story films are never shallow in what they explore, we may get an emotional backstory from these toys not unlike Jessie's. Or an existential crisis not unlike the one that Buzz went through in the first movie. Theory number 5, Andy's dad. One of the questions many Toy Story fans have asked over the last couple decades is, where is Andy's dad? It's not important to the plot, but still remains one of the questions that pops up regularly online. Some Reddit users have speculated that because Woody is a vintage toy and has likely been around for a long time, he was originally owned by Andy's father and passed on to Andy, the implication being that his dad passed away early on. However, with the theme of a road trip present for Toy Story 4, some are wondering if it's possible that Andy's dad didn't die, but just left his family. With Woody and the gang stumbling onto a carnival, it's possible that Woody finds Andy's dad once again after abandoning his family. But like other theories, this one is pretty dark, maybe too much for a family movie. But as we've pointed out, Pixar has not shied away from darkness in the past. What do you think? So do you think that any of these theories are possible, or do you just think we're nuts? Or do you have any dark theories of your own? Let us know in the comment section below. Please remember to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notifications whenever we upload. But most importantly, stay wicked.